This is Assemblymember Luz Rivas. I represent Assembly District 39 in the East San Fernando Valley. Welcome and thank you for joining my workshop today. I also want to thank the American Red Cross for partnering with my office for this very important event. As we're waiting for others to join our workshop, I want to talk about the importance of wildfire safety resources and some of the resources the state is providing as we enter the peak of wildfire season. I'll have my team insert links of these resources in the chat or in the comments of Facebook Live so that you can easily access these links. The first one is CAL FIRE's news releases. You could select which county you live in, like most of us. If you're in my area, we live in Los Angeles. And then receive fire updates that are near you. The second resources that I'd like to share is live access to wildfire cameras in your county through Alert Fire's website. Please feel free to utilize these resources and take that extra step towards safety. And so we will be including these links, like I mentioned earlier. I'm here on summer recess. I came back from Sacramento a couple weeks ago and will return August 16th. We are toward the end of the legislative session. And I'd like to give you a quick update on what's happening in Sacramento, what I've been working on that's relevant to this workshop. I have a bill, AB 585. It creates an extreme heat program that will coordinate our state's efforts to help urban and rural communities combat extreme heat. The program will establish guidelines for grant processes that local entities will be able to utilize to reduce extreme heat through various measures. As you all may remember, last year here in the San Fernando Valley in Woodland Hills, it reached 121 degrees. And that's becoming, unfortunately, the new normal. But as the state, I think it's time that we create a program to help local governments mitigate this heat. So I will keep you updated on that through my social media or newsletter as that bill continues through the process. I also want to remind everyone that my team is ready to provide assistance to our constituents that need help at this time. Most of the calls to my office are related to EDD or the DMV. But you can call us about any other state agencies that you may need help navigating. Please call my office at 818-504-3911. So now that I'm done with those quick updates, I'd like to go ahead and get started. I'm very excited to have the American Red Cross here to help us get prepared for wildfire season. Our speaker is Miriam Andino from the American Red Cross. She's currently the Regional Preparedness Specialist with the American Red Cross in Los Angeles. She started off as an AmeriCorps member serving the San Fernando Valley, Santa Clarita, and the Antelope Valley. So she's very familiar with our area and I'm sure has experienced some of the fires that have happened in the last few years here in this area. Miriam supported the Woolsey Fire in 2018 and Ridgecrest earthquakes in 2019. Miriam, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Assemblymember Rivas and your team for having me and bringing up this very important information for everyone.
Sure. So can you go ahead and get started with a brief presentation on wildfire safety resources? And then what we'll do is we'll follow up with Q&A after that.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. So thank you everyone for joining this presentation. We're going to be going over some basic preparedness tips as well as going into specifics about wildfire and home fires as well. So everyone has the ability to prepare. It's very important to take these steps because in the event of an emergency and a disaster, we're the ones that are going to be responsible for ourselves and those around us. We don't know when we'll have the assistance of first responders. So it's very important to prepare ourselves with an emergency kit, having a plan, and knowing what to do in the event that something does happen. And these tips are applicable to other types of disasters, such as earthquakes, which we are prone to here in California. So the steps for Be Red Cross Ready are get a kit, make a plan, and be informed. And we're going to go ahead and get started with getting a kit and what goes into that. So here are some of the basic items you should have in your emergency kit. First of all, the first thing we think of is water. We need to have 1 gallon of water per person per day. So look at, how many people are in your home, and that's the amount of water that you kind of have to allocate. And then you might consider the space you're living in too. Do I have enough space to store all this water? That's all something you can take into consideration. We suggest having water for 3 days. But ideally, it would be best if you have water for up to 7 to 10 days. It's important to have a first aid kit. This can be a simple first aid kit that you buy that's already made. Flashlights and extra batteries, very important to have those batteries. Sometimes we reach for the flashlight, it turns out it doesn't have batteries or they're dead. So it's very important to have those extra batteries. Make sure to have a whistle. Whistles, you can carry it with you at all times with your keys in your purse, backpack, and also have them in your emergency kits. This will allow you to notify or signal for help in case you are trapped somewhere without using so much of your energy, either yelling or tapping against walls. So it's very important to have a whistle. And a manual can opener. So we think of food immediately when we are making an emergency kit, but sometimes we don't think that we need to open that food. So it's very important to get an extra can opener, put it in your emergency kit, and just leave it in there in case something does happen. As for food, which is one of the first items that pops into our minds when we're thinking about making these emergency kits, I would say the most important tip, besides the food being non-perishable, is make sure they're all items you've already consumed and those in your family have consumed as well. You don't want to risk having a severe allergic reaction to one of the food items when we're in the middle of a disaster, since medical assistance won't be immediate. So it's a very bad time to go into anaphylactic shock during a disaster. So take those into consideration. Some additional items, warm clothes and shoes. Yes, we may live in California, but we never know when these disasters will occur. It could be at night, it can be during the winter. So it's very important to have enough warm clothes and shoes for your family. A radio, part of staying prepared for emergencies is to be informed. So you should have a radio, a crankable one or solar powered is ideal. So that you can carry it with you and it'll be a reliable source of getting your information. We don't know if we'll have internet access or access to television. So radio is one of the most important things you can have. Next up is cash. So we want to make sure to have small bills. So 1s, 5s, 10s would be a good safe bet to store. We recommend $100 to $150 of small bills. This is because we don't know if ATMs are going to be functioning. We don't want to also spend a $100 bill on just getting water because they don't have change. We don't know what can happen. So it's best to have small bills available. Work gloves, very important to keep in your kit. I'd like to say that your hands are your most important tool. So it's very important to keep a pair of work gloves, either, one or enough for those in your family who can assist with moving debris around if needed. Cell phone charger, you might not see it clearly here, but it's important to have a charger that is portable, whether it be for your car or those that you can charge and have them available to you. Not the chargers that we're used to using day to day that go directly into the wall outlet. It's important to have a portable charger. And tools. So have a multi-purpose tool. It can be beneficial in many situations. Some other than the final round of emergency kit items: prescription eyeglasses. Have your prescription available to you. Have prescriptions also listed down in case you need a refill and you don't have them accessible to you. You have that list in your emergency kit, and you can refill as soon as you find a location that is able to do so. Sweet and salty treats. So we might not really understand why this is at first, but it's very important to take care of our mental well-being during a disaster. It can be very stressful. So having something that can ground us and give us a moment to get away from everything that's happening, keep something that you really enjoy in your emergency kit so that you can get away from the stress of the event. Personal hygiene and sanitation items. I like to suggest wet wipes in case there's no running water. You can keep yourself clean using wet wipes. And then having other items that you might need: toothbrushes, toothpaste, shampoo, up to you of what you would prefer to have in your emergency kit in regards to that. Personal documents, very important. Have copies of these documents and store them in your kit. Another option is to make the copies, put them in a freezer safe Ziploc bag, and go ahead and put it in the freezer. The reason you put it in the freezer is because it acts like a safe somewhat, and it's likely to resist in case there's a fire. So it's backup to your safe. And you can keep copies of your personal documents as well as some cash in there as well. And then toys and games. These are for your children, or maybe, for the family to enjoy when the situation is boring or tough, and get away from everything that's happening. You want to be able to distract children from what's happening. They might be stressed too. Most likely they will be stressed. I mean, day to day, they're always asking for something to do, so it won't change during disasters. And finally, pet supplies. Very important to get extra pet supplies. Many times after these events, we see that pets are abandoned. So we should be very mindful of having stuff for our pets as well. And then there are a few types of emergency kits that we can have. First off, personal kit, just simple 3 days worth of supplies for ourselves, and we can take it anywhere we are, in our car, work, or leave it at home. The family kit is probably the one where you're going to put most of your supplies in. It's for 2 weeks. It's recommended that you have it in a container that is easily transportable, and preferably near an exit in your home. And then finally, the by the bed kit. This is just shoes, flashlight, and glasses if you use them. You put it in a bag that you can tie near your bed, secure it, and then if there's ever an earthquake in the middle of the night, you can get your by the bed kit. You have everything you need to get out of your home safely without, cutting your feet or tripping over something. And next up is making a plan. And Assembly member, I'm not sure if you have any questions up to this point.
No, thank you for sharing all those items. I recently created my own emergency kit for my home. I think some things that I learned from you, I don't have copies of my personal documents in my freezer. I never even thought of that. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's a very strange tip. But
is it because the fridge will probably make it like even in a fire, or?
Yeah, it has higher chances of, getting through a fire. It's also the coldest location in your home. So that all combines to being a safe place to keeping your documents.
Yeah, I have to do that this weekend. Yeah, this is very helpful. Like I told you, I created mine last summer. And, my mom lives with me, so I also got her documents, and now we have everything in one place. Both of us know where it is in case of an emergency. We have the flashlights, we have some cash in there. I think I need more, according to your recommendation. But I think it was very helpful to create it together, and for us to know where everything is. And actually now it's made my life easier because all my personal documents are in one place. So when I've needed my passport or birth certificate for something else, they're there. I know where they are because they're in the emergency kit. So
yeah, it can help us.
It helps in other ways in your life, right? It helps you organize your life too.
Exactly. And it's very good that you actually did this with your mother, because one of the tips we have is planning with our families, because it's not beneficial if we plan ourselves and leave our families in the dark.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Okay. Yeah, that's it. I just had those comments. I'm ready to learn more about how to make a plan.
All right, perfect. All right, so some things to consider when you're making your plan: the likely disasters in your area. So for us, and the ones we're going to be going over, wildfire and home fire. Home fires are a risk to everyone in the United States. It's actually the most common disaster that the Red Cross responds to. We respond to quite a few disasters a day that are home fires, and it's not known much because the ones we generally hear about are the larger ones, or if there's a fatality, but home fires happen every day. And earthquakes, of course, here in California. So we also had to consider household members who travel. What will we do if someone in our household isn't home? Is there a secondary plan? Are things going to shift around if that person isn't available? So those are some things to consider. Household members with access or functional needs, we should plan for everyone, and we need a plan on how they will get out if they need to evacuate the home as well. And pets and service animals, always important to even include them in your drills and in your planning. So the first step is to talk. We want to talk with our families, neighbors, and coworkers. Many times with our families, you might have young children, or in general, people are afraid of talking about disasters. It's important to bring it up and try to normalize it and empower them that they can do something about it, and they will most likely be okay if they know what to do. Discuss your risk and vulnerabilities. If you have someone with access and functional needs, what can you do to better help them be prepared? Also, something to consider, babies and older adults, they might need someone to help them get out. So that's something that you should also be planning. Step 2, we make the plan. So have an out-of-state contact. This is so that if local lines are down, we can't communicate with each other, we can call someone out of state. Everyone in the household has this contact. Let's say I call my aunt, I'm okay. If my brother calls you, let me know. My brother calls her, and then that chain of communication continues. It might seem like a hassle, but it's a way of communicating when all other ways are unavailable. Have 2 evacuation routes out of your home and 2 places to meet near your home. One meeting location outside your home should be right in front of your home, and the other outside of your immediate neighborhood. Let's say a local library or a school. In case the hazard is within your neighborhood, you want to get out of there. Everyone should know where these locations are. You can even practice going there when you're doing your drills. And that's step 3, to practice. It's very important to practice. If we have this all planned out and we don't practice, it's basically useless. We want to do this instinctively and have everyone in the family know how to do this as well. Many times people tense up, they freeze in disasters. So we want to prevent that and have people know what to do when something does happen. So practice 2 times each year. Maybe when the time changes, that's when you can practice, change your smoke alarms or check them. and check your emergency kit as well. And then finally, we go over staying informed. So radio is your best bet to staying informed. You want to check the AM channels. This is because local channels, FM towers, might most likely be damaged in the event of something like an earthquake. So your AM stations are your best bet. If you don't remember the exact stations, you can just scroll through the AM and you'll find something there for sure. If you're in need of any Red Cross shelters, they'll be announced there. Or if any infrastructure is damaged and you should avoid an area, it'll probably be announced there. So anything you need news-wise, it'll be there. There's also reverse 911, and these are specific to LA County and LA City. So you can go onto these websites and register your cell phone and email. Other counties and cities have these resources as well. You basically get notified if anything is happening in your area. And some of these notifications might not exactly be a disaster, but they're very useful. One example I can think of is, let's say the 5 freeway was shut down due to a major car crash. It was backed up for miles and for hours, and they told you to avoid that area. If not, someone can go in and be stuck there and spend the rest of their day there. So that's something that's very useful, and I think you would appreciate getting notification for something like that. And then finally, we have Safe and Well. This is a family reunification site ran by the Red Cross. You can let your family know that you're safe. If you have no way of communicating, you register yourself. And then if they register, you'll be able to be reconnected. And then we're gonna go into wildfires and home fires. These should be a couple slides each. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so wildfires, very common, and we're starting to get into, I mean, it's been pretty hot, and that increases the risk for wildfires. I would say that wildfires occur year-round at this point, but it definitely is more frequent in the summer when when it's hotter. And some of the causes for wildfires are the following: lightning, vehicles. If there's accidents on the side of a freeway, they can cause wildfires as well. Arson, unattended campfires, tossed cigarettes, and construction. So these are all a few causes of wildfires that we should be mindful of, especially when we're out in wilderness areas or along foothills. So we'd like to get an understanding of wildfires, and some people aren't really familiar with it. I can think of when we're watching the news and there's wildfires, we always hear someone saying, "Oh, it moves so fast. I didn't even notice it was in my backyard when I stepped away for a few minutes." Fire moves very fast. It's very important to not take it lightly when there's a wildfire near you. Smoke can also impact the air quality, whether you're nearby or far away. We see that, wildfires up north, sometimes that smoke even reaches Southern California. So it's something that can impact us all. It can cause health issues. So we need to be mindful of when there's a wildfire occurring. Wind can carry burning embers up to a mile away or more. So there are a few things you can do to protect your home for these situations where embers can also cause a fire in your backyard. The amount of destruction that a wildfire causes is dependent on the size, landscape, and the fuel available. So those are also some things to consider. And there's also long-term ecological impacts. This would be, the land is eroded. So later on, if there's a rainy season, there's the risk of mudslides and flooding, which is also not to be taken lightly. So these are some things that you need to consider if you live in a wildfire-prone area. So in addition to the planning that we reviewed earlier for your emergency kits, some way to enhance your kits if you do live in an area that's prone to wildfires is having N95s or respirators. These might be in short supply right now due to COVID, but if you have these items available, it's important to also include them in your emergency kit because, as we said, the smoke can be very harmful to your health. If you are planning to use these items, it's best to consult with a doctor. Sometimes individuals with underlying diseases or illnesses aren't able to use these items. It'll cause a greater risk to their health, so it's important to check on that end. Make sure to tailor your plan to wildfires. So evacuation routes outside of your home might be impacted. So check for alternate roads that can lead you out of your neighborhood, of your city, and practice them as well. And staying informed, make sure you listen for updates constantly when there is a wildfire, as things can change rapidly, as I mentioned before. Even if you do not hear an evacuation order, it's probably best if you leave if you feel the wildfire is close to you. You do not have to wait for an order to be issued for you to leave your neighborhood. And when a wildfire is near, be ready to evacuate. So it's not, again, waiting for the orders. It's getting ready to evacuate as soon as you know there's a wildfire. And some of the steps you can take is moving your car into the driveway if it's in the garage, checking your emergency kit, making sure everything's ready in case you need to leave. You can turn on the lights in your home. This is because if there's heavy smoke, firefighters that are responding to your area can see, they can locate your home. So if you have all the lights on, it'll be of great use to those first responders who are trying to combat the fires. Make sure to also bring in items outside of your home that are flammable. This is going back to those embers. So even if the fire is a bit away, you can start putting those items inside, making sure all doors, windows are shut so there's no ash coming in. And by bringing those items inside, it'll prevent the risk of fire sparking around your home. You should also monitor for news continuously. And to avoid the smoke, some things you can do if you're not evacuating at the moment, make sure to keep everything closed and avoid cooking or using any source of fire because that does increase the bad quality of air inside your home when there is a wildfire. So avoiding using any open flames while there's a wildfire. And then finally, some other things that you can do when a wildfire is near is connecting garden hoses to outside taps and having that also available to firefighters in case they are responding to your home in this event. If you see a wildfire, fire in general starting, you should call 911 immediately if you haven't heard anything announced. You want to let first responders know immediately that there's something that should be taken care of immediately. As I said, they can spread really fast. What seems pretty small can turn really big. And you want to be able to prevent that as much as possible. Many times when they capture, 5 acres or so, they shut it down pretty quick. So if you see something, go ahead and call 911. Make sure to follow those evacuation orders. If you feel unsafe and there have been no orders issued, again, please leave your home. And then when you follow those evacuation orders, it's very important to stay outside of the area until you're allowed and let back in by authorities. And then we're also going to be reviewing driving outdoors, driving and being outdoors. So if you're driving, make sure to turn on your headlights and be cautious. Drive pretty slow. If you're in an area where there's lots of people evacuating, you don't want to cause an injury by hitting someone or an animal or any sort of accident. We want to avoid that because it'll take you longer to get out of the area. So you want to keep your windows closed, vents closed, and make sure to avoid driving through heavy smoke if possible. If you're outdoors, let's say you're camping, you're unable to leave, find an area with water and crouch down as low as possible. The lower you are, the less you'll breathe in smoke. Smoke is a big thing that causes harm to humans and animals, so we want to make sure to avoid the smoke whenever possible. So getting as low as we can will help us. So if you have water, that's good. Get really low against it. If you don't have water available, make sure to find clear ground with no trees or bushes, anything around, and cover yourself in soil so that if it does get bad, you are safe, as safe as you can be in that situation. And call 911 if you have signal available. And then there's also things we have to do after a wildfire that sometimes we don't really think about. We'll be able to go home eventually when authorities let us in, but there are some hazards in going back. So these hazards can be hotspots and ash pits. So when fire burns away tree root systems or holes caused by, burrowing, there can be locations where we can step in the ground and it's hollow and it's full of hot ash and can last up for weeks. So we want to be cautious of that. And if we locate ash pits, we want to make sure to mark them so that others aren't going to be exposed to that and hurt themselves too. So that's something to be aware of when you're going back. Also, let others know you're safe. These are big events that everyone might be calling you. It's important to let others know that you're back home and that they can go back home too. So if in case they're not aware and they're your neighbors or their family members who have been staying separately. So it's important to keep that line of communication open throughout the entire wildfire incident. And continue to take care of yourself and those around you. You want to make sure to go around your home and check anything that might need to be thrown out, such as spoiled food in refrigerators because the power was out, water, other items such as toothpaste. Sometimes it can get contaminated just by being in heavy smoke. This is the case too for home fires. So any medicine that might have been out, you might want to replace because it can damage it, and you don't want to risk getting ill from consuming things that have been damaged. And remember to assist those who need help. So let's say you have an elderly neighbor, offer them help too so they can safely go back to their homes. And during this time, you also want to make sure to consider your pets in this environment that might be a bit more dangerous than they're used to. And some steps to recovery after wildfires. If you had to evacuate, you want to make sure to inspect your home, like I mentioned, and consider whether you should actually take everyone back home when you're allowed back. You might want to leave children with a friend or a family member in case things might be a bit dangerous. You don't want to put them at risk, and it'll relieve some stress from you too. Keep an eye out for any damaged power lines. If you spot anything that someone else can take care of, like the power company, contact them immediately. You want to make sure to take care of yourself when you're going back home. So wear protective gear, long pants, long sleeve shirt, gloves, boots, respirators if you have them, to make sure you're safe when you're going around inspecting your home. And you want to make sure, again, to not use open flames. If you smell gas, hear gas escaping, you probably want to avoid that area until the gas company checks it out. So these are all some steps that you can take that can help you with the recovery process that might be a few days, a few weeks, or even longer, depending on the damage to your home. We want to follow the steps that we mentioned in the beginning to prepare our homes to avoid having a longer recovery. And make sure to take pictures and save all receipts. This is for insurance purposes. You want to make sure to save everything that's relevant to items inside your home. All right, and just to review, make sure to remove debris and flammable material within 200 feet of your home. Use fire-resistant materials and plants if you live in these wildfire-prone areas. You can install spark arresters and use window panes that are multi-pane or mesh, or also meshing in the chimneys to avoid embers flying in. And you can keep some tools for firefighting and store water if possible to help those first responders who are going to your homes. And that's it for wildfires. Any questions or comments up to this point?
Not right now. I have some questions that were sent to us before the workshop, but I'll go ahead and wait till we get to the Q&A portion.
Got it. Okay. And our final section is home fires. So home fires, like I mentioned, are the most common disaster in the United States that we really need to be mindful of. And there are quite a few causes for home fires. And we'll review those right now and what you can do to lower your risk of having a home fire. So the most common cause of fire is actually the kitchen. So we never want to leave things unattended when we're cooking. There's a saying we have, keep an eye on what you fry. Always have someone in the kitchen. Yeah, it's the best. Always have someone in the kitchen when you're cooking. If you have to step away for a while, make sure to either turn it off or find someone to look, keep an eye on it. And install fire extinguishers. So if you don't know how to use a fire extinguisher, you can contact your local fire department. Sometimes they're offering classes. They might be doing that right now still. So it's important to contact them so you feel prepared to use a fire extinguisher in case something does happen. Cooking fires are actually 1/3 of the reported home fires. So it's a very large cause of home fires, and we need to be careful when we're cooking. And then appliances is also a big cause of home fires. Up to 25% of home fires are caused by electrical, heating, lighting equipment. So some tips that we can remember: plug appliances directly into wall outlets. This is so that we don't rely on power strips or extension cords, which can overheat and cause a fire. If they're older, we need to check the wiring to make sure nothing's exposed, nothing's overheating. Those are all causes of fires. So we want to make sure all our appliances, power strips, extension cords are not posing a risk. And also that they're not tripping hazards, because that can also spark a fire. If you're using heating appliances, make sure 3 feet from the heat. So anything flammable, furniture, curtains, stays 3 feet from the heat. It's very important to keep that in mind, especially during winter. We see a lot of the fires that we respond to are because of heaters. I know the first fire that I went on to help out the residents who were displaced was actually because of a heater. And it actually ended up affecting up to 4 or 5 units. Just because it started in one apartment, it spread. So we want to make sure to keep ourselves and those around us safe by following these simple rules. And then smoking. Smoking is actually one of the causes of fire that lead to the most home fire fatalities. This is because when these fires start, it's usually because someone smoking is drowsy or drops the cigarette, while they're sleeping, and that starts a fire. Especially if they don't have smoke alarms, it won't wake them up. So it's very important to avoid smoking when you're drowsy, when you're in bed. Never smoke if there's medical oxygen used nearby. That can also pose a great risk to everyone in your home. Always make sure to extinguish properly and keep lighters away from children. So very important to consider these rules with your family members, any guests that might be coming into your home. Let them know, you prefer them to smoke outside or to follow these simple rules. This goes with vaping as well. Never charge it overnight or leave it unattended when it's charging, and replace batteries that might be damaged. So very important to follow these tips for avoiding smoke-related home fires. And smoke alarms. Very important to have smoke alarms in your home. Install on every floor that you live on, every room that someone sleeps in. Sometimes we have rooms that someone sleeps in and it's not a designated bedroom per se. It's very important to have a smoke alarm there because someone's sleeping, and if there's a fire, they need to be able to wake up as well. Test every month. That's ideal. I know some of us may be very busy, so at least twice a year when the time changes again, that's your moment to check the smoke alarms and make sure that they're working. Maintain them properly every now and then, dust them off so the sensors stay functioning, and replace after 10 years because we want to make sure that they're up to date. Sometimes we have smoke alarms in our homes. We don't know how old they are. Don't disable alarms. If we're cooking and they keep going off, we might need to move it within the home. We don't recommend you having smoke alarms in or very close to the kitchen, and also outside of bathrooms because vapor can actually trigger them. So those are some areas to avoid having the smoke alarms. And the Red Cross actually does install smoke alarms. Right now, we're kind of paused. We're still giving a brief 20-30 minute education portion. And then by doing that, you're guaranteed to have however many smoke alarms you need installed in your home when we're able to go back into homes. Knowing what to do if there is a home fire. So we've gone over the causes and how to prevent them, but unfortunately, home fires still do start. So you need to know what to do if it does happen. First rule, get out and stay out. Once you get out, you want to remain outside, call 911 so that if anyone else in your home hasn't gotten out, first responders can help them out. Many times individuals go back into their home trying to look for a family member, and unfortunately that's when people get injured or unfortunately pass away. So we want to make sure to avoid doing that. Find a safe escape route. That's why we have mentioned earlier in your planning to do 2 evacuation routes out of your home. So if you can't get out one way, you're able to get out another. And your meeting locations. So these meeting locations are to avoid that situation where someone goes back inside looking for someone else when they were already outside. So having a meeting location that everyone agrees upon is very important. And again, most importantly, call 911. Home fires, like wildfires, spread really fast. You have less than 2 minutes to get out. So it's very important. Keep the number 2 in mind. 2 evacuation routes, 2 meeting locations, and less than 2 minutes. And this is just how to plan your escape routes. Having 2 out of each room is ideal. Make sure your windows and doors open easily. If you have barriers over your window, it's very important that you test them to make sure there's a way to unlock them from the inside, because you don't want that to pose a hazard and prevent you from actually getting outside. Have escape ladders if you live on the 2nd floor or above, and make sure that your home is clutter-free and free of any other hazard that can impede you from exiting. And your safe meeting places, again, one right outside of your home, one outside of your neighborhood, and make sure everyone knows where these locations are. When you're doing these plans, make sure it works for everyone. Assign evacuation assistance if needed. Let's say you have a young child, someone with access or functional needs. There's someone designated in your home that will help that person, and there will be no confusion when you're planning to get out. Practice with all members. This includes babies, older adults, pets. Include everyone when you're actually doing your drill. And when you're doing your practice run, make sure you time it so that you can get out in less than 2 minutes with everyone in the home included. Practice at least twice a year. If your plan changes, make sure to practice that new version as well to see that it works for everyone and in the allotted time that we want you to get out. If it doesn't work, make sure to adjust and practice again. And again, make sure to prepare with children. Let them know, teach them about these incidences. Make sure you teach them about how fire starts, what smoke alarms sound like, how to open windows, escape, and the plan that you have made for your home as well. And also teaching them how to call 911 is very important. We do offer classes for children, kinder through about 6th grade. We have classes available so that they understand it and they can get it in a way that is not too scary for them. And just a few more slides. So in the closed room, if you can't evacuate and you're in the situation where you have to remain inside, look for smoke. You want to avoid going to those areas. Let's say you're in a room with a closed door. You want to use the back side of your hand to see if the door is hot by touching the wooden part of the door. If it's warm or hot, there's probably a fire on the other side. We want to avoid going through there and sealing the door. So once we have to remain in that room, we seal the door, block any vents, and call 911. Or we can signal for help by waving something outside a window or doing any noise against the window or wall so that first responders are able to identify where you are. Firefighters are trained to go around the home and look for these signs to help anyone who might be stuck inside their home. So very important, we can all be proactive by the steps we learned today. It's a lot of information, but we can start a few things at a time. So for today, we can all start a home fire escape plan. So plotting out your home, marking the evacuation routes, and finding meeting locations that your family will all agree on. Test your smoke alarms. You can check if they're actually working. We might have never done that, so that's a good first step. And practice your home fire escape plan. You can make this a family activity. And I'm sure young children will probably like this, especially if they haven't done a fire drill in quite a while, if they haven't been in school. It's something to get them thinking and start learning these important skills. And as I mentioned earlier, we do have the home fire campaign. All we need is 20 to 30 minutes to do the education portion that we always do when we're visiting homes. Right now it's virtual, but once you do that step, we'll save your information so that we can go to your home to install however many smoke alarms you need in your home. And you can get more information or request by visiting the website listed on the screen. And like it was mentioned earlier, I did start off my time as an AmeriCorps member. So if anyone is interested, right now we're actually taking new members, and you're able to provide emergency assistance to those in your community and respond to other disasters when they happen, whether in California or even maybe get the chance to go to another state. All terms are 10.5 months. There's offices all over California and even in the San Fernando Valley. They're looking for the position I once had. So if anyone's interested, it's a really good opportunity. You can apply online, and the term of service starts in September. And thank you very much. That's all for now, but if you have any questions, you can always email us or visit the website listed on the screen.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that presentation. I know we're short on time, but I may have a few questions that came up. Let me go and check that. Oh, I have one that came to us before the workshop. So Assembly District 39 has a sizable equestrian community. Where can equine animals be transported, evacuated during an emergency? Or is there a contact or information that you can provide?
So just to confirm, this is the community in the San Fernando Valley?
Yeah, like horses. They have a lot of horses in like Silmar, Lakeview Terrace,
Yeah.
Laurel Hills area, and they're also very close to the foothills.
Yeah.
Where we're more likely to have a wildfire. And I know that's always something that comes up during a fire. It's like, what do I do with my horse?
Right.
Is there anywhere they can call, or I'm just thinking about.
So the information I had is and that's why staying informed is very important. When these fires have occurred, I know they've had places where you can take your horses in Hanson Dam, sometimes Pierce College, even the fairgrounds up near Palmdale. So it varies. It actually varies every time there's a wildfire, depending on the access to the location, and any other risks that might be around it. So it's very important to actually look at each incident and kind of be aware of the general areas, like I mentioned, just in case you have to take them to any one of those locations. I don't know if that answers the question enough, but those are some of the locations that I know of. Okay, thank you. But I think for our constituents that do have horses, I think that should be part of their emergency plan on where to take their horse in case of a fire. So I know a lot of them are very prepared. You mentioned the program that families can apply to install free smoke detectors. Yeah. I think you just provided the website. I had a question of how a family can apply, but you provided a website, right? So if I go to that website, now you started to make me think about my own smoke detectors and if they all work in my home. But for a lot of us, we may have moved into a home and there's only one smoke detector. So I think your program would be very beneficial to families in our area. Yeah, definitely. Pre-COVID, we did have these events where we went out to certain communities and spent a day long at the local park and sent out teams to the surrounding neighborhoods and went door to door to install. So hopefully we can bring that back soon. But for now, we have the website on the screen where they can request the information to get that education portion first. Then we'll go to their home to install when we can. Okay, so we'll keep, I'll have my team keep updated on when that program is back, like the way that you used to run it. And then we'll make an announcement on our social media so that people know that it's back. Because I think that would benefit a lot of families in our area. All right, perfect. Okay, I think I have time for like maybe one more question, and I'm looking. Someone asked about languages, like if you make this presentation available in other languages such as Spanish or Armenian, or if they contact your office, are there people that can help a non-English speaker? Yeah, so we definitely have presentations in Spanish for all these, the ones that we present the most. We do have material in other languages. However, for the actual presentations, it'll be dependent on the languages our volunteers speak and their availability. But definitely we do have it all in Spanish.
Okay, great. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I found a lot of what you presented very useful. Even, like I said, I already have my own emergency kit, but I'm missing things. I can work better on my plan too. And then thinking about home fires, I need to buy a fire extinguisher. I don't have one in my home. And I think most people don't. And I think that's something that we can easily buy. Do you have any recommendations on it? Is there certain types of fire extinguishers?
So there are several types of fire extinguishers. The ones we need in homes are the basic, if they're usually indicated, the differences are indicated by colors. So at Home Depot, you can get the basic red one. I believe it's indicated by ABC. It kind of indicates there whether it's for kitchen, electrical fires. So it's very important to look at that. And you can also contact your local fire department. They'll be more than glad to help you out with that too.
That's great. Well, I want to thank you, Miriam, and the American Red Cross for joining me today and providing all of us this useful information on what to do during a wildfire, how to be prepared during home fires. Thank you for everyone that joined us. Thank you. If you have any additional questions or want to be reminded about some of the resources that we discussed here, please feel free to contact my district office at 818-504-3911. Thank you so much, and I hope you all have a great day.